I think this is going to have to be a 2-part video, just letting you know. And that's okay. Like, we'll split this up and we'll talk about it in 2 parts. So, okay. So you checked in, you've had this big Kundalini, spontaneous Kundalini thing. And what's happening?
So in between, all right, so this Kundalini thing happened, right? So I could no longer look at anything. I was like I saw my co-founders at Carbonate, Helen and Mike, they appeared as fucking angels in this light. They disappeared. 2 energies that disappeared in their full-blown angelic forms. And I was like, I just burst into tears seeing them this is what I could see. And I just cried my eyes out in reverence to their glory. And then that was it. That was her turn. After that, she basically told me, all right, so I went through this. I like checked out, basically put my glasses on and was trying to calibrate what was going on inside me, freaking out. I was meant to go to Melbourne the next day. So I was meant to come with me, as a thank you, as, beautiful friend. And of course, in that night, flipped severely, had a knife in her hand, like found some on my property, started smoking it, and then also started eating sugar, and then couldn't stop eating the sugar, couldn't stop until she was bleeding lips and gums and vomiting. Like these entities had taken over her so severely. And at that moment, she had decided that her only mission in life was to kill me, right? To like end my life. Like that became for 5 years forward, that became her drive.
Hence your fear of speaking publicly and why we now need to bleep out her name.
Yeah.
So stop saying her name. So less editing work for me.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I managed the next day, Helen got me to the airport. I managed to get on a flight. I couldn't see anything. I was completely my whole system was fried. I can explain it to you. I felt like I was fried from the inside out. I knew that I was in a dangerous moment in my existence. I knew that I needed to recalibrate. I knew I had to sit in darkness. I knew I had to be alone in absolute stillness. So I checked immediately into a hotel and just stayed there for the days. I would have stayed there for as long as it took.
How did you get away from?
I don't remember.
Sorry.
I just
know. How did we get around? How about we stop saying her name?
Sorry.
How did you get away from the nemesis with the knife in her hand?
Yeah. Well, she just ended up in a extremely manic state. Her partner at the time started to intervene finally. And I think at that point, I don't remember. Like my memories of this moment are fragmented because my insides were fried. I was fried, and I was actually I would say I was in a personal emergency moment that I needed to go and I needed to be in darkness.
It's pretty amazing because you're at that point of this massive, so you've had the quickening, you've had this massive realizations, everything coming all at once, whether you believe it or not. And then this massive Kundalini awakening. At that moment, her psychosis is so bad.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
In parallel to you, you have light, and she's sort of been pulled into this dark.
Yep.
Very interfered with, fragmented psyche, whatever you want to call it. There's definitely interference with very dark entities trying to get to you. The more your light is shone, right?
100%.
And that's
100%.
probably why you consciously, as a godlike being, decided to come in here without that knowledge, as a protection.
No knowledge.
As a
that's
protection.
Been everyone's beef.
And that's what. Yeah. But this is the thing: is that just from my experience of when we find out these things about us in past lives or our origins or whatever, and we find out who we really are, a lot of the time is that we are cloaked and we're hidden to protect us from this kind of interference. And I'll talk about that later.
So, well, I mean, I think you've hit that. That is very poignant because this is why I'm feeling so vulnerable and exposed, because this podcast uncloaks me here, does it not? Like,
yes,
I mean,
but it brings context as well. Yeah.
It does. Look, I mean, to everyone listening to this, like these are just a handful of the experiences that I had during this time where my reality was like it was basically one giant Mandela effect. And like I'm telling you as it happened to me and also the stories that were told to me, I am not in any sense saying I have any conclusion on this whatsoever. And and as you guys have witnessed in my reality here in this body, I'm just like, a fucked up human being like everyone else. Like there's no essence in me that makes me walk around thinking, yeah, man, I've got this, I can know all this, have all these experiences, but the ownership of it and the integration of it just simply hasn't occurred yet. It just hasn't occurred, JC, because like it hasn't. I don't walk around thinking, all of this happened to me because this is true. And thus I have some nobility running through me.
Yeah, you're putting it out there because it is so mind-bending, and there's physical evidence as well as this testimony from someone, and you are just as confused as I am with what happened to me, and not knowing that these paranormal things are happening around you constantly, and you're trying to figure out as a human being what the hell happens, because you don't know what to believe either way, and whatever reality you need to sit in to be able to cope with your normal life, you're going to have to sit in that. And so saying it publicly does help. I mean, I still can't say publicly what happened to me because it's just too, it's slander
it's too
and
current.
defamation. It's
current,
too current, but it's also, I mean, I could say it without mentioning names, but it's too public. Yeah. So okay,
well, I've had years to process this now.
So now,
all right,
I want to get to
okay.
What other part? What do you get to know? So you're in darkness in a hotel. You checked yourself into a hotel.
3 days. 3 days. And it took 3 days
your
for me
system
to
is
know.
calming down. Were you able to eat? Were you able to? How did you function to pay for the hotel?
I don't recall. It's a blur. I don't recall much of that. I'd already booked the hotel. I just arrived basically. I just caught a taxi, arrived. And then like whatever I needed to get me into that situation where I was safe to recalibrate happened. Whatever support I needed in that moment by the universe, it absolutely happened. And I have no real memory of it. Even I don't have any memory of it. I just remember I was just,
and the nemesis was from that point on out of your life. Like, I mean, as in physically taken away.
Well, basically, but she lived very close to me, so it wasn't like very far.
I see.
The same village, but yes, essentially, I ended up in Melbourne. It was the first time ever that my family ever sat me down and went, like, "Are you actually having mental issues?" Like, that's the first time ever my family have ever questioned my state of mind, because they're just watching this play out, and it's just so crazy. And so, and then I was in contact with Jason during this time going, oh my God, like this has just happened. And then he would tell me stories that he would take what had just happened and then make sense of it from all time. So like I would tell him about this Kundalini expression, this massive thing that just happened. And then he would liken it back to, that's because, so your energy's so big that like it actually could explode this whole world if you knew if you knew how big it was, like that it exploded fried my own being was nothing compared to its potential in his language, and
Time Lord.
which is the Time Lord, which is the original 13 coming into one being. It's that original story of all that energy coming into one. Anyway, so this when it starts to get a bit weird. This is where the Jason thing starts to break down. So during this time with Jason, I didn't even fucking. Oh, this is good. Like we were over 3 hours. Okay, so when I first met Jason, right at the beginning, like when we met in the car park and we were talking about the gold, I also then he said the next meeting he said to me, look, I basically invented this amazing basically internet, this internet thing, and instead of like being harmful in frequency, it runs off the dolphin frequency, and it can cut through all mountains, and it's basically free. And I've set up towers all over the Australia, and I'm going all around the world, and it's going to bring in trillions and trillions of dollars, and it's going to be the used internet of the world, right? And I didn't disbelieve him because he'd given me enough evidence of the intelligence, but he called them the dolphin towers. So he said, I've built these dolphin towers all around the world. And I'm like, dolphin towers? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, again, I never saw them, JC, but he, again, like so, but the fact is that he actually used the word dolphin towers, and I was like very symbolically in this, like that dream with the dolphin towers, and then this woman from Hawaii and the dolphins, and I like no one ever used the word dolphin towers, so that was another thing. So, as he started to build these dolphin towers around the realm, he was basically setting up, he said to me, okay, you told me to do this. This is what he said to me. He said, like, last lifetime, you told me to find a way to generate effortless gold, basically, so that we weren't limited in how we were going to tackle this issue this lifetime. Thus, I have created this, and thus it's going to generate trillions of dollars. How are you going to use it? So then I and Helen and Mike, my co-pilots at Carbonate, set up our first charity, and the charity was called What Would Love Do Now? And the charity was set up to take these funds and basically distribute them all around the realm to anyone who could answer the question, what would love do now, on any single topic. So and this was serious business. Like we were flying around Australia having meetings with the top charity lawyers, top bankers. We were setting up banks out of Australia. Like this was taken very seriously. The funds were there to move this forward. We were hiring people for this team. Like this was a big fucking movement, right? And we all knew our fucking destinies in this. So big difference when you're being told this is a destiny and this is your pathway, how you conduct yourself in those meetings, how you go up to ivory towers and speak to the top lawyers and bankers and do it with absolute confidence and reverence that you are commanding them. Big difference in attitude, right? So we were taking this attitude into the real world. And so this is where it starts to fall apart. And this is where I go back to, was it all a con? This be back and forth, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. So Jason's on his way. He's working out near Mount Isa, right? Here in the Australian outback. He's on his way to go and distribute the first big chunk of funds into this bank account to start this charity working. And he calls me, right? He calls me and he said, I've been in an accident and I've hit a pig in my ute. I'm hanging upside down right now. I'm trapped. There's no one here. And like, I can't call a hospital. I can't call an ambulance. So as soon as he goes into a hospital and they do any MRIs on him, any x-rays, they can see that he's not a normal human being, right? And he's got the chips in it, and he's got military ID tags within him, embedded in him. So I'm like, So I called, I can't remember. One of us called the ambulance. Anyway, he gets picked up. So he's got brain concussion, right? So he ends up, and he's in some fucking weird hospital in Mount Isa. And he's got he's broken, everything's broken. The next day, everything's not so broken. Doctors don't know what's just happened. His ribs are no longer broken. This is all according to Jason. I wasn't there. This is Jason's version on the phone to me. Ribs are broken, not broken anymore. They're about to do x-rays. They've discovered his chip. They've called the military ambulance are on their way to pick him up. They take him to Townsville. Townsville, he's handcuffed. He's not just an inpatient, he's handcuffed to the bed. He's now in a semi-military hospital. He's still got his phone, but he's aware that it's about to be taken off him. And he starts to tell me that he knows that he's about to be reset. that they will, once they take him into the proper hospital, he knows that he's going to have his memories wiped. He's going to be reset. And I'm just like, oh, so all of this is happening, and it's all happening over a course of a couple of days. And then he ends up being flown to a military hospital in Melbourne, which at the time is where I was, because I'd just come to Melbourne and we were doing all these meetings in Melbourne. This was not this wasn't the Kundalini moment. This is probably a trip maybe 4 weeks after that. Oh, and let me pause for a second, because we're about to end the story of Jason, because I haven't mentioned there's one, but I need to wee.
Me too.
I have one more story to mention, and then we're almost at the end.
Okay.
Oh my God.
I need to go to the
Has this been all right? Fucking hell.
Yeah. No, this is good, but I can see it's a two-parter. So we did get our 2 episodes in today, so that's good. All right, hang on a second.
All right.
Okay, so we're up to we're in the last leg.
Yeah, I'm getting weary. I can feel it.
It's a big story.
So I just like a side note story, which is definitely relevant to the last couple of years. When I finally did go out to Jason's property looking for the gold, I did actually do that. I went out, and that night, Jason and I were standing around the fire, and suddenly out of nowhere, the temperature drops really fucking cold. It goes really cold, right?
Yeah.
And it was cold anyway, but like it was a tangible drop. And suddenly I heard this weird clicking type noise, and this shuffling and this movement out in the bush around us. And I was just like, oh my God, I could feel the presence I could feel something around us. I could feel several somethings around us. And it came out of nowhere. And I was like, holy shit. So one thing about Jason was that he claimed to me that he could see all entities, demonic, any entities, any realm, that they could see them. They were genetically programmed to be able to see them. That's how they became super soldiers, because they actually can see what our eyes can't see.
Yeah,
and he did attest to the fact
infrared,
that
okay, other spectrum.
that most of the weird wars that we've had, it's like the Vietnam War, like side note wars, have been they've been demonic
spiders.
Spiders, demonic things that we can't see. Anyway, so he's like, there's 3 tall, white, gray aliens approaching us. And I'm like, okay. And instantly, as the temperature dropped, and you could tangibly feel the frequency drop, you could tangibly feel it. And instantly, my whole being went into fear. Like it was a tangible drop. And as soon as I acknowledged consciously that my being had dropped into fear, I immediately went into a big vocal speech about unity. I just went straight into unification, straight into talking about if they were wanting to unify, if they were willing to be here and want my presence and attention, then they would have to come to the fireplace and make themselves known to me, and thus introductions to be made. And that I see a world where and I went on this spiel, right? And it instantly took me out of any fear paradigm. And I was instantly in fucking sovereignty, so hardcore. And they stopped moving towards us, right? And then this went, and the temperature rose up. And then about an hour later, it happened again. This time there was 4 of them. This time I could make them out. Like Jason could see them, but they came closer this time, and I could see, but it's not like I'm looking at you now. Like I didn't see them like that close and personal. I could see like an energetic beings that had a low frequency energetic around them. And this time I felt it was darker. Like it wasn't like, it felt like there was another being with them, and it was darker with a strong intention. Okay, this is going to be a quick story. So in that moment, I launched again into a sovereign speech straight away, really loud, really fucking, I know who I am. Yeah. In that moment, Jason said to me, they are telling me that you have contracted this moment, that there is an ethereal chip that every single being on this realm has in them from birth, that they have made a contract with me to remove mine, but that you will become sick, that you're going to become really sick, but it's a contract they've made. And then get this. And then they are planning to release this via the air onto the entire population to remove these ethereal chips that are holding us back to our own awakening. That it's a contracted thing, but I am the first.
So what year
All right?
is this?
This is what they said to me.
Wait, what year
this
is this?
2000. This would be 2016.
2016.
Right? And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, I'm not sick. What are you talking about?
Okay, it's starting to cut out again. So it just cut off just then. So start again at so I was just saying it was 2016. These alien type greys, tall grey beings.
Tall whites. They were white. They were white greys.
Kind of,
yeah.
where they're like blotchy, whitish. Yeah. Okay. And they were coming, and Jason could see them, and he's translating what they're saying, and they're basically saying
because they're telepathic. So super soldiers have a telepathic. Yeah.
Right, and that you're going to now be sick. That there is a contract to have these chips. What, a contract removed. With a contract with these entities?
That didn't get explained. That it was a very contract.
So as Earthlings, we have these chips that are preventing us from birth. And this is interesting because I've seen similar things. So there's these chips or these programs in us that are keeping us kind of in this frequency, but there's going to be this virus that spreads across the realm, and once people have this virus, it helps remove this.
Well,
to stop
they didn't say the word virus.
Okay.
This
they
didn't say virus. They just said to remove these chips, they would be dropping this airborne. Whatever they did, it was going to be airborne. That I had a significant role in that, and I was the first. And so, but here's the trippy thing: as he communicated that to me, because I could feel their presence, I could sense the shift in energy and vibration, I could hear them like clicking, shuffling noises. I could hear all of that. Telepathically, no, they weren't speaking to me; they were speaking through Jason, right? So, in that moment, as they started to disappear, as the frequency started to go up again, Jason's in front of me. He again turns white, drops to his knees, and almost passes out. And now he's like super strong soldier dude. Like, so I was like, what the fuck has just happened? Anyway, so he staggers back up, and he's like got this look of almost fear on his face, which I've never, ever seen from him, ever. And so then he explains to me that in that moment, what he saw was this completely symbiote, like a mirror version of me, come out and stand right beside me, exactly the same shape, horrific, like a big black, like the Scream, you know, that painting Scream, big black empty eyes, Scream, like come out, stand beside me, and then like it went through Jason and disappeared. And that was that. So that happened. That happened, right?
Okay. Did you feel anything when he's describing?
Well, it was like, as what happened with me is that I could feel the energy shifting and changing as these beings were closer to us or moving away. I could feel it and I could feel my fear or my sovereignty shifting. I could feel the temperature shifting. And in that moment was he'd just finished telling me that they were going to remove this implant from me as a contracted, like it was almost like they were doing it to me, like I had contracted them in a mutual, respectable, reverent, like they were under contract. They had no choice. They were obliged to resolve this from me. Like I had some sort of claim over them, some sort of sovereignty over them. It was a weird dynamic. But But then this thing happened with this thing, and Jason, like, actually, I didn't feel anything, and I didn't see anything with this entity next to me.
Could that be okay? So I have I have so many questions. Could that being that he saw, because he could see all different spectrums?
Yep.
So this is where we talk about multidimensional aspects of ourselves. Could that being that came out of you be either a shadow part of you or an archonic illusion of our frequency that had attached to you, because archons replicate and mimic and kind of
100%.
They have to use an original being, and then they can flip it and do all sorts of things. So that they've done the kind of the flip version of you, the dark version of you, the darkest possible version of you,
the soulless version, the soulless version
of you. And so it almost was like that energy left you.
Yeah.
But were these alien beings malevolent?
The second group felt definitely denser and darker than the first group. Like,
so
they were like
group that were white were what? Were they the first group?
They felt, so they were both tall white. They're all both groups for the same beings. It is the first time the first group felt like more like scouts, like more like
little minions.
And then the second group, there was one being with them that was very like
dark.
Dense. Like, yep. And I think I've thought about it, because I only saw it through Jason's response to it. I didn't see or feel anything beside me or acknowledge any shift. I just saw Jason react to it so strongly. And I could, like, with just on that phrasing of what they said, you know, like that this chip enables this etheric chip somehow enables this inverted mirrored version. It's like Black Mirror, right? Dark Mirror. It's literally the Dark Mirror.
It kind of explains theories I have about when the not a reset, but when the Dracos took over this realm, this frequency, and dropped us into a lower frequency, because I got a lot of downloads when I was in England, and I got shown my last lifetime before the drop in frequency, and it was like, these dragon families, or these reptilian families that infiltrated the rulers all over the world, and you know, they were slowly kind of infiltrating and dropping the frequency. And it was this realm of it's kind of like this mirror realm of ours, but there was this pristine, beautiful realm of, you know, of like higher, we could had free energy and all of that. And then as they slowly infiltrated all of us, this etheric chip, or frequency, whatever, dropped us, so that we then had the replica realm, which is what the Gnostics talked about. This replica realm, you know, it's the mirrored version, this fake realm, the false realm.
Yes.
And it may it presents in different ways. So it can present as what I saw originally back in 2021 was, it was like we were locked down under a dome, and then the real world was outside of that, and we were in this darker, and it's not necessarily like that, but it could just be how the brain perceived it. But wow, okay.
Look, I think the Gnostics version of reality, like, absolutely explains a lot of what I went through in these years.
Explain it. Okay, now, so he then predicts that they're saying to him, you're now going to get sick, and you're the first one that's going to experience this airborne pathogen.
And I can't remember exactly if, like, that entity that got removed from me was that it's like once you remove it, you get sick. I'm not sure if the sickness comes before or after.
December. Yeah, okay. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So then that was that. That was it. Jason recovered, and it told me what had just happened. And then, you know, we were camping that night, and then, you know, he drove me home the next morning, and all was well and fine and whatever. And they said to him that basically I I would like this exactly what that I'd get sick at midnight for 3 days and it would break on the third day at midnight. And, it's going to be intense. She'll think she's dying, but she won't. So he said this to me, but of course I was fucking fine, man. I was so fine. I was way beyond fine. I was thriving, fittest and healthiest I'd ever been. Fucking midnight that night. Oh my God. It was like my lungs, suddenly all of the moisture and liquid in my lungs disappeared. It felt like I was out of nowhere at the tail end of tuberculosis. Every breath, every cough, every movement was like knives going into my lungs. I could barely breathe. I could barely breathe. I basically freaked the fuck out because it would happen out of nowhere. And I'd never experienced anything like it before. I basically put myself in a hot shower into the steam just to breathe. And it was like knives, knives, knives. I had a big pot of hot water on the fireplace with poured eucalyptus in it. I was just breathing it all. I went into an absolute 1,000% fever that I've never experienced. Malaria on steroids, never experienced in my life. Like full on, I was fucked, man. By the next day, I thought I was at the point, and I never get to this point of like, I'm going to have to check myself to hospital. I actually don't know where this is leading. I feel like in any moment, my lungs are going to collapse in on themselves. Like it was so scary and so debilitating. I mean, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't take breath easily. Everything about my chest and I mean, literally in a few days, I lost 10 kilos because that's how much I sweated out, couldn't breathe, couldn't drink, couldn't eat, nothing. I went into a skeleton like that, and then like I freaked out. I couldn't get hold of Jason. And then I phoned him. He's like, so Jason's answer, oh, I'm in Perth. I mean, how did you get to Perth? I went through a portal. And sorry, I'm in Perth. All right. Okay, good. Well, I'm dying. Like, he's like, don't worry. They said it would break on the third night at midnight. I'm like, fuck, this is like day 2. I'm literally, I mean, I was surprised that I could even move. It was so intense, man. I've never experienced anything like it. Midnight on the third night, my cat, you got to have a cat in this realm, man. Everyone needs a fucking
Hang on.
All right, sorry.
Okay, so you're up to the cat. Up to the cat.
My cat slapping me awake. I look at the clock. It's midnight. The fever's broken. So I was lying on a mattress, on a rug, on my floor. I had my copper pyramid over me this whole time. I forgot to mention that. I had a fucking copper pyramid over me the whole time. I was sleeping under a copper pyramid. Woke up, the fever broke, and oh my God, out of me, the amount of sweat like went through the mattress, through the rug, onto the wooden floorboards, and like the amount of mucus and blood that was coming out of my chest, my nose. I was just like expelling. The next day, and but it fully broke the fever. The next day, Jason turned up and he gave me, guess what he gave me? Guess what he fucking gave me? He gave me 2 pills that he said we use this in the military all the time.
Is it hydroxychloroquine?
Hydroxychloroquine. Yeah, that's what he gave me.
No,
he said, here you go, take these, it'll clear it up straight away. And true, I took them, the fever had broken, and maybe 4 hours later, I could feel that I was like getting better. So, hello, let's now fast forward to 2020 when a pathogen was dropped onto the human realm called COVID-19 with a cure called hydroxychloroquine and all of the symptoms. Hydroxychloroquine and all of the symptoms being all about chest, not being able to breathe, mucus in the chest, and they put all those people on the what are those things they put them in the hospital, and that killed so many people. Ventilators. I lived what I believe to be the very first experience and expression of COVID.
I have so many questions because if he is my lab or super soldier or whatever, could he have had access to a pathogen and then released it upon you? Put it in your
Absolutely.
drink.
100%. Yep.
Done something like that, not
Yep.
knowing
Yep.
there's a part of
Yes.
him did that to you,
Yep.
but then he made a little noise and said, "Oh, the aliens are coming. They're telling me that you're going to get sick." And then he conveniently
100%.
was in Perth, like, you
Yep.
know, and then suddenly, so that's on the other side of the country, 4-hour flight away. And suddenly he's back again, gives you the cure.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. 100%. 100%.
So he's
Dude, and
he's
this is
testing like a really huge, like if you were an old lady, you would have died. Like if you were
100%. Yeah,
obese
I knew that
or
at the
with
time.
diabetes, you would
I
have
knew
died.
it. Mhm.
Yeah.
I knew it. As I was going through it, I knew if I was young or old or compromised, I would be dead right now. I knew it. So when COVID hit and all the language around COVID, I was like, holy fucking shit. Like this mirrors this so dramatically. But you're deadly right. Like you're deadly right. You're absolutely right. Like every single experience that I had with Jason could have been it could have been the truth or the complete inversion of the truth. I could have absolutely had experienced this thing in the way that he dictated it to me as I experienced it, or it could have absolutely been him like manipulating the situation, deliberately giving
Without
me something in
knowing
my
because of
drink.
the
Yeah.
mind control,
Or even knowing.
compartmentalize it. Yeah. Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
or
True.
even knowing. Or not knowing. But you're right. It's like, and
Yeah.
that's what it's been like the whole time. The whole time on every topic with this super soldier.
And so,
But
I mean, I've
that's
got a lot of questions. What we'll do is I'll ask the questions at the end, but now you're up to, I'm just trying to keep you on track. Now we're up to the bit where you get better. He's given you the HCQ.
yeah.
And then when does he disappear out of the picture?
So the accident happened.
So the accident
now
happened.
he's
Okay, so
in.
let's just make this timeline. So you
Yeah,
got sick
that's probably
before.
about, let's see, if that was around June, July
Yeah, because it was cold.
2016, then he probably the incident with the Kundalini rising ramp, the moment was probably around September, around my birthday time, and then probably Melbourne was around December.
Okay, so you were sick before the period of the Kundalini rising and possibly just experiencing this.
Yes, before. Yeah.
The Kundalini rising thing or the ascension thing could be an experience if, you know, that this virus or whatever it is, pathogen, had to occur for that to happen and break through with you.
Let me just remember. Let me just specifically know that I did that before or after the Kundalini. Yeah, because that was right at the end of the day. Yeah, it was before. It was before.
So you got sick
before the Kundalini.
Okay, and this is why, I mean, of course, for years you're going to struggle with this story and not because it's so
story.
It's either really, really true. Yeah, it's either really, really true or absolutely
a really
bullshit.
Elaborate con. Yeah, a really, really elaborate con.
Catfish. An elaborate catfish.
Full on. And I can see, I can find evidence.
Right.
I can find evidence for the possibility of both of those playing out. Like the whole way along, I can tell you that like I met Jason because I dropped off my computer.
That is this realm though, because there's always the two sides of everything. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, that is this realm. That's why you had people lining up to get, you had people lining up to get this, saying we're helping society by doing this, and then we had the flip side of that going, no, it's deadly, and and that's just this realm, okay.
I'm just going to warn the audience right now that there is a giant thunderstorm over my head, so the internet is becoming unstable.
We're going to have to hurry up. All right, hurry up. Come on, God. Like if you can make thunderbolts and lightning cover the sky, just we need to get the rest of this story. Go on.
All right, so like basically he claims that because I'm not there, that he's now in a military hospital. They're about to take his phone off him. He knows that what he's about to undergo is a reset. He will be wiped.
Right. Okay. Go on.
Yep. Okay. A car accident. He's got a brain injury, so he can't just repair that. It's something he needs to go and actually get repaired. He has to be in the military complex to do that. It's not like it can grow back like his bones. He said he's been through this a few times. Like, he's going to tell me exactly how it's going to play out. He's going to have his memories wiped, but he's going to he wants me to contact him 3 weeks from now at this Mac shop, you know, back to the beginning of the story, and then to basically tell him what's just happened and rejig all his memories again. Hello, Groundhog Day. So, and but right now, of course, part of the con side is that the funds for the charity haven't turned up conveniently, because now he's about to have his memories wiped. So then, so that all plays out. I go back to my farm, wait a couple of weeks. I actually think my sister ended up calling him, because my family now are highly suspicious of what the fuck is going on around me. Like, they've like, what is going on? I think my sister called him. Anyway, so he's back at the Kundalini shop. So I call him and say, hi, you know, I've got a computer. He doesn't know who I am. And then I'm like, he's like, yeah, I'll come out and get it. I'm like, all right, you can come out and get it. He comes to the house. As soon as he arrives in the driveway, I can smell the musk. I can fully smell the musk. That's when I smelled the musk. That was when I smelled the musk. After all this, that's what I smell. So right now, if my brain's like, this is a con, he's a con artist, and then he gets out of the car and I'm thinking this is a con, and I smell the musk. So, you know, like, so
and
simultaneously, I get evidence. All right, so he gets full on deja vu. Like, so he does all the same things. Can't look at me, smells the smell. But this time I'm smelling the smell. I'm really shocked. And this time I know what's going on and he doesn't. And then he's just like, I'm feeling really weird. He comes to my kitchen. I'm feeling really weird. I feel like I've been here before. It's a fucking deja vu. And he's like, really, he's getting very anxious about it and agitated. He doesn't know what's going on, right? He's like, something's happened to me. He's really agitated. I've never seen him agitated. So I'm like thinking, oh my God, do I just sit down and tell him? Is it going to blow his mind? Is this the right thing to do? Do I just give him a little bit? Do we do this in sections? Do I do it all at once? Like, I'm like, I have fucking no idea. But it was like full on Groundhog Day. Like, we just lived out the whole thing again. But this time I have all the memory and he has none.
Yeah.
So then I take him outside and I just start to, like, he doesn't know why he feels so familiar with me. He doesn't know why he's agitated. He doesn't know what's just happened to him. Something's happened to him. He doesn't know what. He's feeling violated. Like, and I'm just coming and agitating it more. So last time when it happened, it was all really lovely and smooth and gentle. This time it's harsh and aggravated and agitated.
Episode. Yeah, go on. It's Doctor Who.
So anyway, I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just going to tell him the whole story. Like, he's already agitated. He's already pissed off. He doesn't know what's going on. So I just basically tell him the whole story all over again, everything that's actually happened and everything he's told me on top of that. And this time round, he just can't handle it. He can't handle the amount of it. He's angry. He's pissed off. Whereas last time round, he wanted to basically, you know, do anything to support my work in, you know, serving living beings and serving this realm. Now he wants to fucking go and destroy the people who've done this to him. Now he wants to make war on the people who have violated him and stripped him. And he's like, he's not at peace. So if his story is true and they did reset him, something about my presence hasn't allowed it to settle. He hasn't been able to just like integrate whatever they did back to him. So now he's caught between two worlds, like my version and my energetic, and the military's intervention, their energetic, if you believe this story. On the other hand, suddenly he's starting to talk about this man that I've never heard him talk about, which like sounds exactly like a handler. Oh, and then blah, blah, blah. I've got to go and talk to blah, blah, blah. I've got to go check this with blah, blah, blah. Suddenly there's another being in the story, a handler, right?
Yeah.
And then eventually we meet up maybe 3 or 4 times as I slowly start to like try to integrate him back into, but he doesn't integrate again. He's not like, he's agitated. He's like, you remember Max Spears went off the wagon a few times? Like, he's in that space. You know, he's
defragmented.
He's defragmented, definitely.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, so then it just basically dissipated into a way where I felt like energetically, if I keep pushing him or continue to engage this sort of dynamic, he is actually, something negative is going to happen. I felt the negative energy, and he was super paranoid about like military listening to everything that was going on. He was super paranoid about my safety. Suddenly out of nowhere, before he was like, nothing's ever going to happen. I'm your protector. I know I'm always quicker than everyone. Now suddenly he's like super worried about my safety in all of this. So the whole energetic shifted. And honestly, that's kind of where we left it. Like I haven't like followed up on anything. I just sort of like
Have you
put it
ever been
aside.
tempted to drive
No,
back to the
never
computer
once.
shop?
To me, it's felt like a Pandora's box. This
Yeah.
podcast is the very first time that I've even put language to it again and any attention on it. And how I came out of that space was really, it was really bad because that was when, so Jason fell away, but at the same time, my nemesis picked up her process. So, like, whereas this whole vulnerable thing with Jason was going on, Jane like went public,
That's
hardcore,
her name.
violated me in every
Yeah.
public way, and was like hardcore turning. And so there's a real big things going on for me, and it just made me go underground,
Yeah.
basically, and
So
essentially.
so this nemesis was basically then starting to try to publicly destroy you in every way.
100% in every way, and
it
to the
became
extreme,
a
like
huge.
traveling around Australia, like hunting out people who had been in my life, and seeking out my family, and like to the max ability.
This is a
Yeah.
movie. You do realize, like, we might be approached by Hollywood to write this into a script.
Ooh, that would Hollywood.
But so okay, so then he leaves your life. You're left devastated.
With no answers.
So in this space of time, you're alone on this farm. You've just gone through the grief of losing a relationship with someone. You had a massive breakup. You've gone through all these major, this 40-day fast and these physical things, these physical trials and tribulations, and then this massive impact on your psyche, this story that is showing you physical evidence in your reality. You are literally like a companion for the Doctor Who, and you're witnessing, because every time I watch Doctor Who, I'm like, aren't they fucked up mentally now that they've just witnessed these things on other realms and weird things have happened to them? Because it's so much for a human being to take. And now it's come full circle. We're now telling the story publicly. And of course, the audience is going to have all these questions now. So is it okay if I ask questions? And yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I fucking need a cigarette, man. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Light one up. Light one up. Are you allowed to smoke inside?
I'm stuck in the shed.
So these are the questions that are coming up for me, for example, as you're talking about the super soldier thing. And one of the questions that we could ponder on or propose to the audience is, but are these supposed super soldiers people who've incarnated in this realm, are they possibly from Nephilim bloodline? And is there a technology in the military or the deep state who are able to recognize as they're being born and therefore targeting them in such a way? Now, what I got told in my hypnosis session, which I really got to do a video on it with Laura, was that this archon that was attached to me or was trying to manipulate me said, we've been chasing her from the beginning of time. We've been tracing her from the beginning of time. Every time she comes into this realm, we have to find her and destroy her. And, because she keeps messing our game. Okay. And they said that about me. You used the word apex. You were an apex of this 13, this council. And that's the word that came through in my hypnosis, that I was an apex. They kept saying I was an original. It was like there's like many of these beings in here who are like an apex or an original being of light. And I saw it like light, like a diamond of light. And from there is the rest of us kind of exponentially expanded. And what we do is we trigger the rest of the humans to remember who they are and to awaken. And that's why they're targeting us. Okay, so
yes.
So are they
My answer is yes.
Okay. And you called him like a genetically modified person, but what if he had this Nephilim bloodline? These beings are targeted because, this is the other thing the Archon said, is that they can time travel and they can find us. And they know exactly who we're going to be conceived in. And that when they identify us, and I would assume that it's whoever is these others that are in here in this game, in this holographic realm, that they will manipulate that person. They'll either enter in from conception to affect matters so that that person, for example, ends up in military hands, being mylabbed or what have you. And the reason why I had that thought in my head about the Nephilim is you mentioned that you saw him as a centaur. And I mean, that in itself, there is those stories of like the island of Dr. Moreau and all of that, but there are those stories from Atlantis. And I don't know if it was Edgar Casey who first started saying these stories or a previous philosopher who wrote about Atlantis, that we were that Atlantis, that whole civilization was playing around with technology and creating these half human, half animal beings.
Definitely.
Could it be that some of these beings, the way this realm works is every time this is so complex. It's like, what is this thing where our DNA, so as flesh beings in this time and space where our consciousness is, in our DNA, is there these cellular memories of these past lives? So like our frequency holds the memory, fragmented memories of other specific lifetimes. I'm seeing it all in my head, but I have to put words to it, and it's really hard.
And
so in his physical vessel that he incarnated into in this lifetime, where his consciousness is, he has something in his DNA where he holds a bloodline of the Nephilim or a bloodline of a strange being like a centaur. Yeah. So does that make sense?
100%.
And so that's why they're seeking them out. So the whole military operation, the whole military industrial complex, the whole deep state thing is to seek these beings out and harness their abilities either for themselves by biohacking them or suppress them and keep them hidden. So they're either using them as their own weapons of war, or they're suppressing them and destroying them physically or mentally.
Absolutely. Yes. And I actually asked Jason about that. I was like, why did you decide to come down into a military situation? Like, why did you make that choice? He said, the vehicle of the super soldier was the only one that could hold my energy. And that his energetic was titanic, like it was
like a
Nephilimic. It was that all of those energies.
I mean, that's what I felt when I met you. I felt giant energy.
Yeah,
the Nephilim.
And so the vehicle of the altered super soldier, which I totally agree with you, has come out of the seeking out of these life forms, and
it's very hard to explain. It's hard to explain because we're seeing, as humans listening to the story, we're trying to see it in a linear time frame, but it's not. I can see how it's cyclical, how what comes before, we can't explain what comes before or what comes after because it's all at once. And here's
I agree with you.
So let's go with the premise. Let's just go with the premise that these beings who are used as super soldiers are not just random orphans. They're not just random orphans that are picked from war-torn places and then used by military to be, because I have heard of that story that, for example, a lot of Haitian children, that were stolen and
Yeah.
trafficked, were abused so heavily in order to compartmentalize their minds and make them into snipers and these sorts of soldier, super soldier type things. But what if there is some kind of technology that the deep state have in conjunction with the archonic entities, the reptilian races as well, to locate
Definitely.
us, all right? And so then they have these operations, for example, the I mean, I believe, I was trying to, I mean, this is a theory that I have, that, for example, where Australia puts their illegal immigrants, that island, I can't remember what it's called, where it's horrendously torturous and do you know what I'm talking about? Where, like, if you have these boat people that come to try and come here illegally, they send them to this island. That, I just feel like, I don't even know where I'm going with this. I feel like they can locate us. They can locate us, and they will use these people with a particular frequency, for example, or a particular. Oh no, Kelly's frozen. Can you hear me, Kelly? I'm going to keep talking, and then let's see. She's back.
Yeah,
I
this
was
is gonna be
blabbing
shit
on.
now.
That's okay.
I
I
know
was
you were doing
blabbing on.
good. I was
I was
following.
blabbing on. I
No,
won't
no.
change it because I was on a thing. I was just saying, so there's this particular island where in Australia they take a lot of the boat people who have arrived here illegally, and then they send them to that island, and I can't remember what it is, but there's this whole kind of security system there. And what if those people are
It's
being
called
harnessed and
Nauru. Nauru.
okay, harvested and yeah,
Yeah.
harvested and used. And I just think like there must be, the way it was described to me in hypnosis by this archon and these entities is that they have been searching for us from the beginning of time, and that this is
Yes.
their game. This is their game. This holographic realm is their game. So this overlay that they've put over the organic earth is their game, which is not true. Okay, it's not their game. They just have that in their head. That they want us out, because what we've done as these other beings outside of this game is we've come in to try and save the humans, and we incarnate as humans, and they're trying to quickly find us and get rid of us and do whatever they can, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, to get rid of us. That was part of what what I got told in this hypnosis session. And so I'm just sort of wondering if that's what the super soldiers are. The other,
I agree with you.
yeah, the other thing I
Yeah,
wanted
because
to,
Jason said, sorry, I interrupted you.
no, you're right. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, Jay, the very first thing he said before any saw him in the Mac shop was that, we thought that we'd gotten rid of you. And the light, that light was a signature that they could see.
Yeah.
They could see and seek out that specific signature. So yes, they've been hunting
That's
that
what they said to me.
forever.
Yeah, they were saying that to me
Yeah.
too. They were saying, we can do all these sorts of things. And she keeps coming back here. She keeps coming back here, and we need to get rid of her. And yeah, so it sounds to me as though whatever programmed him and other super soldiers is of this archonic AI realm. Okay, so what Laura sort of was saying is that there's an AI universe and there's our universe, which is from our organic source, divine source creator. So we live in the free will universe. The problem is that these archonic entities that work hand in hand with AI, and it's not just reptilian. There's other thing. They're not just reptilian.
No.
They kind of locked us into a frequency to play with us and feed off us. And but they're from a realm, an AI realm, that no compassion, no free will. They think that they have a right to do this to us. Our whole journey,
Yeah.
because and so God source allows this because he says, well, in this, you as souls working your way out of this is part of the soul journey and the experience as parts of organic creation, and that's all is good in this universe, because all comes with lessons, and that you can't get bogged down in the nasty sort of parts of this. Okay, and so here's the other thing I wanted to say. What if, so if the military is taken charge of by these entities, so like people who are being controlled by these entities, let's say, in these powerful positions, and they are doing these programs, and they have these technologies that can locate consciousness, that can find the frequencies of the people that hold these particular frequencies. What if everything he said to you was true, but also a program that they programmed him with? Could that be?
Absolutely. 100%. Like, our concept of reality is so immature. It's so immature. Yeah. Simultaneously, if anything, I could say of all of the stories I've just told you, I observed evidence of simultaneous realities playing out, contradictory and in support of each other at the very same time all around me. Like, absolutely, I could see that it was a program, and also truth, and also contradiction, and also now, and also then. And it's like there is nothing solid or solidified around. So when I walked out of this, I can't tell you, JC, what I got out of this to say that was true. Oh, that wasn't true. There's no container. I've got no container on it.
Well, what I think it's confirming is that this is a convoluted universe, and that all things are possible.
100%.
That's what it's confirming.
100%.
For me, it's what. So here's a question. As you were telling the story, I was very aware of, and it's very difficult to tell these stories about other realms and what you are in other realms, because we are many things, and it always sounds like we think we've got tickets on ourselves and we think we're better than everyone. And when I say we, I mean those of us who are awake and not NPCs. That's the bottom line. It includes you, audience. It includes you. Okay. It's not we as in me and Kelly. It includes you. Could it be, like you were saying, that your partner's in carbonate, you saw them as angelic, etc. Could it be that a small percentage of the population are gods and angels playing in a holographic realm with the NPCs as part? They're the playthings. And
according to the story, yeah, man, that's exactly in summary and essence of the story that I was being told, not just from Jason, but also from Priyat, and also from channeling, and also all around me. That story was being told to me. You are this, and you are here, and you've forgotten, and this is your game. This is a game you've been playing out. Like, I might as well have entered the realm of a video game, really, like the same sort of fantastical storyline, the levels, so I mean, I think, yes, that's highly a possibility. There are players here that are from the angelic higher realms working with a reality, with just like you would a video game, almost like I don't know. Do you think that, Jason,
go on.
Do you think there's an ultimate purpose to it? Like, do you think there's an ultimate reason? Like, I've been told a creation story which gives me a framework, as in you are part of the original creation of this virus, this weapon, and you're here to like see it finally finished or whatever. Like, do you think that there's or do we all just have our own creation myths?
It's part of the word that comes to me is sonder, SONDER. And what sonder is that every human being on this planet has their own experience of this world, and all simultaneously. So we all have our fully in-depth movie going on for each of us, right? Every single one of us. And that's the notion of sonder, is that everyone has
that word.
Complex things. And we can look up what the actual definition of it is. I'll look it up actually as I'm talking to you. And I've just
had an agitating thought. I'm so sorry, but it's pissing down with rain and my laptop's out
Oh,
in like, I just have to go get my laptop in. Just,
no
I'm sorry to
worries.
interrupt you.
No,
One
you're
sec,
right.
one sec.
Go, go, go. So I will, as Kelly is doing that, I'm going to look up Sonder definition. There it is. Wait for Kelly.
So I'm glad I went out. Okay, I interrupt you. Go.
No, you're right. All right. So I'll read to you exactly what Sonder is. It's the profound feeling of realizing that everyone, including strangers passing in the street, has a life as complex as one's own, which they are constantly living despite one's personal lack of awareness of it. So that's the perfect explanation for Sonder. So in that, I don't know why I said the word Sonder, but
because I asked you if you think we have a purpose or a overriding destiny here or
of course,
reason.
because look, I go back to, and you don't have to believe this, everybody, but I go back to whenever anything confuses us, rise above it. Okay, see the highest pinnacle point of awareness that you can, and maybe this is a gift that I have that only some people have. I can see everything from the highest perspective and pull out of the human experience all the time. And in order to do this, are you frozen, Kelly? You're looking very gorgeous, by the way, but are you frozen? She's frozen. There's a big storm coming. I'll keep talking just to explain this point. But to rise above this reality is the ultimate. You need to do that, and you need to see. She's disappeared. Just press pause. So it looks like Kelly, she just called me. We had a little chat. Her power went out because of the storm. So what we've decided to do is to continue this on the other side with questions, and I will add that to this video. So if I've left midway in a thought process, just know that it will seem like no time has passed for you, but basically we're going to ask questions on the other side of this and continue. I was trying to explain something to Kelly when her power went out, but I'm glad you stuck around this long. My fascinator is falling off. Glad you stuck around this long, and I'll see you on the other side.